So this next example is one that is, for the most part, fairly straightforward and a little bit cookie cutter, which I want to show you as well because that's what mostly you're going to be getting. Like, even if you never learned a lot of crazy advanced out there techniques, if you just learn to do the bread and butter sort of situations properly, you get tons and tons of numbers, tons and tons of results. So there's one particular area here where there's a little finesse, but for the most part, it's pretty straightforward, pretty much how an interaction should go. You get the number very quickly, not a lot of messages, not a ton of resistance, just like assuming that you're online, she's online. If she's messaging at all, she likes you, so just get to the point, get the number, and get her out on a date. Okay, so the first message I used here was a bit of a cocky, funny type of a thing that I throw out sometimes, which is, hi, I just wanted to tell you that if I had the emotional maturity for a relationship, you would totally be top of my list. All right, just kind of a funny, lighthearted, whatever kind of thing, okay? Not like the best message I've ever come up with. I field tested it, works a bit, but it's of the right format. It has that flippancy, it has that arrogance, etc. And this is something I was doing about a year ago. So her response to that is, arrogant but mildly interesting, ... Okay, so now this is a compliment and a shit test at once. The mildly interesting part is a compliment. The arrogant part is a bit of a shit test. But the fact that it's mildly interesting, etc., it's more shit test than anything else. It's more like, prove yourself to me, right? Doors open, but seriously, prove yourself to me. So I want to avoid that frame of proving myself. So what could I do? Again, we have agree and exaggerate or misinterpret. So in this case, arrogant but mildly interesting, I could mess around with like the mildly part, be like extremely this, extremely that, or arrogant, you have no idea, I'm da 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 da. You could take it that way, but I don't really like those. Those seem a little try hard. So what's the other thing you could do would be to misinterpret. In this case, I'm going to misinterpret what's good and what's bad. Most people would think that the arrogant part's the bad part, the mildly part's the bad part, and the interesting part is the good part. So I'm just going to flip that on its head and treat it as though the complete opposite is true. So here's how I did that. I say, interesting, question mark, exclamation mark. I was just going for arrogant asshole, but hey, whatever works, wink. You don't seem entirely boring yourself, doll. Right? Just very, very sort of like arrogant, flippant, but instead of like trying to not be the arrogant asshole, I'm saying like, oh, I was going for the arrogant asshole part, but I happened upon interesting, my bad. I wasn't trying to do that. I guess that just happened by accident, right? So it's a complete flip on its head of the entire thing. Instead of saying interesting is good and asshole is bad, or arrogant is bad, I'm saying arrogant asshole is good, interesting is who the hell cares. Okay, so I flipped it around, kind of like changed the whole meaning of what she said. And it's so lighthearted and funny and so like sort of self-insulting that it can't be all that serious either. So in a way, it's kind of sort of misinterpretation and agree and exaggerate in the same message. So you use kind of the whole scope of how to pass a shit test. And again, the other thing with passing a shit test, I clearly don't care too much about the response. I'm clearly not taking myself or the shit test all that seriously. That's critical as well. So then her next answer is, haha, I'm gobsmacked by your candor and prowess with the English language, doll. Right? So what's she doing here? A couple different things. Gobsmacked is just an interesting word, but she's talking about my candor and prowess of the English language. She's saying you speak well. She says haha, which is very positive. So it's all very positive there. And then she calls me doll, but she's saying doll sort of ironically, right? So the doll sounds like a shit test, but what's she really doing? I said doll in the previous message, then she puts doll in all caps in this message and like hammers the point home. So she's very much reactive to me at this point, right? And I consider that a very positive thing. So it's a compliment, although it's a shit testy compliment. But then on top of it, using doll, reusing doll from my previous message is a very high form of flattery. So I'm going to take that as a very positive message, which is why I now begin to close. Now my close here is very interesting because what I'm going to do, I actually, instead of doing the soft close, I do go for more of a harder close, but then I put a softener in it. And the softener in this case is the fact that I'm traveling. So the fact that I'm traveling when I go for the phone number here makes it seem like I'm not going to hit her up right away. I'm not going to be needy and desperate. And it's not with an agenda of let me get you on a date and let me fuck you as soon as possible. So I use this a lot of times if I feel like there's a little bit of like difficulty in getting the number, or it might be a little bit too forward. Sometimes I'll say like, hey, I'm traveling, but what's your number? I'll call you when I'm back in town. So so that she feels more comfortable giving me the number. She feels like we're going to talk for a bit as opposed to I'm just going to like try and get her on a date and pressure her and that kind of stuff. So I'm trying to convey I'm a cool guy, no pressure, etc. Also the travel thing, it sort of conveys lifestyle in a way as well. So it makes you seem like a cooler person. So what I messaged actually was, haha, perhaps you should grab a drink when I get back to Boston this week. In the meantime, my number is da-da-da-da. What's yours, Todd? Again, I did the my number is this, what's yours, because I found that works. And again, I'm closing, but I say that I'm out of town close so that it softens it and increases my percentages. Now, all these things like the my number is this, what's yours, and the like I'm traveling, but those kind of things, it's not a massive increase in percentages, but it's significant enough. And you start throwing 3 or 4 of them together, you get a much bigger percentage. You might get an extra 25% response rate, which is really, really great. And so her response was, I do not text, but here's my number. I shall not be in town until the 29th at soonest, and then her name and her phone number. Okay, so got the number. It's nice because I'm traveling anyway, at least plausibly she's traveling. We'll both get back into town. Perfect time to meet up, perfect time to have that camaraderie. And the nice thing about that, the traveling thing, is that she's probably not hitting up other guys so much. Probably a lot of guys aren't following up, or if they are following up, they're actually burning their numbers out because they're trying too hard to get a date, and then she's traveling, so she's not there. So I think it's actually kind of an optimal time to just put in some time on the phone, get things going well, and then get her out eventually when I'm back in town. So it works out pretty well in principle and in fact as well.